Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 110. New money-making plan. The driver's seat of the new carriage was also very unique. It was designed to look like an armchair with a special place for feet, so the driver would not be uncomfortable when driving for a long time. In addition, there was a semicircular rod around the awning above, with a rainproof cloth hung on both ends of the rod that could be opened and closed like a sliding curtain. There were 2 fixed planks on the shaft on both sides of the armchair. When the passengers didn't want to sit inside the carriage, 2 could sit here. LIAN slowed down and asked, "Wife, how is it?" "Very comfortable." Mian lifted the curtain of the small window and said, "Tie, I want to drive." "Why not you experience it too?" LIAN stopped the carriage, climbed into the carriage, and looked down at the long table. "What about the bed?" In Mian's mind, an uncensored image involuntarily emerged, making his heartbeat skip a beat. "I didn't try." Without saying a word, LIAN pulled it up and pushed open a mechanism. After the long table slowly flipped over, it lowered and very closely joined together with the 2 seats. With a push from LIAN, Mian fell on the bed. He immediately jumped up and nervously looked out of the window. What are you doing? There are so many people out there." A ghost of a smile flew past in LIAN's deep eyes. His big palm caressed his wife's face before he turned and got off the carriage. Mian opened his mouth but words failed him for a long time. In other words, he was the only who was thinking of doing such things. Seeing LIAN was back to the driver's seat through the screen curtain, Mian crawled over, lifted the curtain and called out, "Tie." LIAN looked back. "What's it?" Mian hooked his finger to indicate that the man should get closer. Then, he took a bite on his man's thin lips and quickly backed away. LIAN looked at the shaking screen curtain and took a deep breath before he turned his head and looked ahead. Mian pushed open the door, crawled to the man's side, and sat down. LIAN shook the reins, and the sound of horses' hooves clattered, slowly approaching the crowd under the big locust tree. A few curious villagers looked over. Mian jumped out of the carriage and greeted the villagers. "What are you chatting about?" Zhang Ji said with a smile, "We're chatting about when your 4th brother will marry a wife." Mian laughingly looked at the uneasy Lei Xiangli. "Si Lang's marriage should be arranged within the year, right? Let your Dagura lend you the new carriage to pick up the bride at that time." It was a matter of great honor to be able to pick up one's bride with this unique carriage. Lei Xiangli was very moved. He didn't feel embarrassed as he said, "Then, that's a promise, eldest sister-in-law, Dagura. There's still some work left at home, so I'll go first." After leaving that sentence, he ran away as fast as he could. The villagers laughed even louder. Mian and LIAN didn't stay much longer. They got on the carriage and went home. "Hey," Fang Honglia bumped into Zhang Ji with her arm. "When do you think she will be able to fix the marriage of her family's Lao Si?" Before Zhang Ji could say anything, Zhou Qiwa disdainfully curled her lips and tucked the solace of her shoes in her hands. "Ever since her Lao Wu become an entry-level examinee, haven't there been 8 matchmakers arranging marriages for Lao Si? However, she has been very picky and didn't like any of them. I'm waiting to see what kind of 4th daughter-in-law she will find." "I feel that it will be hard," said an aunt mysteriously. "Don't you know? All kinds of troubles in their family have spread to other villages. The Lei's Lao Si is good, he is capable and can bear hardships. The eldest brother and eldest sister-in-law are promising, the youngest brother is also promising. But if one can't stand that he has a mother like that, it won't be easy to be their family's daughter-in-law." "Stop it, don't talk so much," Zhang Ji stopped her. "The new bride will be married to Lao Si, not to the mother-in-law." The villagers knew that Zhang Ji and Mian were close, and they were also willing to keep propriety in speech for the sake of respect toward Mian and LIAN, so they chatted about other things. Back at home, Mian changed into a short-sleeved shirt and shorts and lay in bed that was covered with a bamboo mat. The floor-to-ceiling windows were fully opened, and the gentle summer wind slowly blew into the room, dispelling a bit of heat. Mian relaxingly spread out his forelimbs while his empty eyes fell on the beam without blinking. Thinking about what? LIAN grabbed his ankle. Thinking of how to spend money. Mian faced him sideways. We can't keep 50,000 silver taels to grow mold. Money has to be spent to make more money. There's so much business to do, but I can't think of what is best to do first. Wine. After LIAN spat out a word, he lay down beside Mian and raised the youngster's head to let him rest on his arm. Wine? That's a good idea. Mian was absorbed in thought. What kind of wine is made in that small winery in our village? White wine and rice wine. LIAN held Mian's hand and kissed him from the fingers to the arm, gradually going upward. Mian breathed, became unsteady and glared at him. Don't want to do it. It's too hot. LIAN rolled up Mian's clothes. His breath puffed on Mian's neck was scalding hot. It won't be hot after doing it. Wife, in the carriage before, I was. Mian covered the man's mouth and hesitated. LIAN tore off his clothes in a sweeping manner. Mian saw that the situation was beyond salvation and could only obediently put his arms around his man's neck. Mian had to admit that it was a great pleasure to take a bath after sweating in the hot summer, and after changing into fresh clothes, there was a person beside him to fan and feed him grapes. If we want to open a winery, we'd better notify the owner of the small winery. After all, we're fellow villagers. We don't want to accidentally get into a feud with them. LIAN said, maybe you can hire him to handle the winery. The business is getting bigger, it's impossible to do everything by yourself. Mian was enlightened, that's plausible. He turned over and lay on LIAN. It was a little hot, but he liked to be close to his man. There are so many things I want to do. I also want to make instant noodles, manage a vineyard, build a mountain resort. No hurry, we have a lot of time. LIAN stroked his hair, I'll be with you. Of course. Mian put his arm around his man's waist. What do you think about buying a large piece of land behind our farmhouse? Then, connect it to leisurely farmhouse and build a perimeter wall around it, including the vermicelli workshop. Afterward, the winery, food processing workshop, and so on are to be built here. Mian was mainly responsible for the mental work, while LIAN was mainly responsible for physical work. Listen to you. They did what they discussed. After reorganizing, they went out to the village chief's home first. When the village chief's family saw the two men, they all smiled happily and very enthusiastically served them tea. The village chief had both status and position in the village, so he was quite respected. Mian and LIAN were not pretentious at all. After saying a few polite greetings, the two men took the tea. Mian explained his intention. The village chief was happy and straightforwardly sold him a large open space behind the village at the price of the uncultivated land. Are you still going to plant fruit trees this time? Li Zheng asked. Mian said, no, we plan to open another workshop. The specific work is still under discussion. The village chief nodded, it's good to run a workshop. The more business you do in the village, the more workforce you need, so the villagers don't have to go far to look for work. This is a good thing for the whole village. Village chief can rest assured that LIAN and I will do our best to make allowances for the villagers. Mian didn't want to say too much. He didn't mind hiring people in the village for ordinary jobs, as long as the key technologies were in his own hands. After coming out of the village chief's house, they went to visit the owner of the small winery. Before they entered, they smelled the aroma of wine, but the door of the small winery was locked. Their trip was in vain. They went to ask the neighbors, and it turned out that the eldest brother-in-law of Chen San, the owner of the small winery, had a newborn son. Chen San and his wife went to attend the feast. The next day, Mian and LIAN went to visit again. Chen San and his wife were busy. Qin Mian and Lei Tie's arrival surprised both husband and wife. Seeing that they didn't come to buy wine, Chen San wiped his hands and asked in a puzzled way, "What is it?" "Sorry to disturb Uncle Chen and Aunt Chen." Qin Mian handed over the pastries in his hand and directly spoke out his intention, "It's like this. After some time, our family plans to open a winery and most of the wine will be exported. I'm afraid that Uncle Chen will misunderstand, so I came to notify you. I hope Uncle Chen doesn't take offense." Chen San and his wife were stumped for words. Chen San's expression carried a sense of loss as he shook his head, "Nothing to take offense for. Opening a winery doesn't break the law. It's very remarkable of you to think of informing us." Sitting at the side, Chen San's wife sighed. The wine in their winery was not very good, but the villagers would come here to buy it when they wanted to drink. They earned 50 to 60 yuan a month, or more than 12 silver taels a year. When the Lei Tie family's winery opened, there would be fewer people coming here to buy wine, their income would become less. However, she was not an unreasonable person and would not say anything to blame others. The husband and wife did not show any resentment. Qin Mian discovered that they were sincere people and said to Chen San, "Uncle Chen, I want to be honest with you. Tie and I have some good wine recipes, but we know almost nothing about brewing wine. We'd like to hire you to oversee our winery. What do you think?" Immediately, Chen San's wife looked happy. They had just lost sesame seed and never expected to pick up a watermelon soon. Chen San was a little excited. If he worked in Lei Tie family's winery, his salary was paid monthly, which meant a stable income. Moreover, the salary for managing their business was not low and much better than running a small winery. "For you to think highly of me, how can I be unwilling? It's just, I still have a lot of wine here." Qin Mian said with a smile, "That's easy. It will take about half a month for our winery to start operating. Uncle Chen can take this opportunity to deal with your remaining wine." Chen San's wife asked with some embarrassment, "If my husband works in your family's winery, how much? How much is the salary per month?" Qin Mian frankly said, "Because I don't know how good Uncle Chen's craftsmanship is, I can only pay 100 yuan a month at most in the beginning. If Uncle Chen performs well or makes important contributions to the winery, his salary will increase. Besides, those who work for our family, whether there are servants or hired workers, have their own bonuses at every festival." End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 111. The hapless Lei Xiangli. Everyone in the village knows that you are kind to your servants and employees. Chen San's wife had a firmer smile on her face and a softer voice, "I heard that your servants are given meat every month. They're better off than some villagers." Qin Mian didn't admit to her words and just smiled. "Uncle Chen, does this mean you agreed? I'll let you know when the winery starts operating." All right." Uncle Chen rubbed his hands and smiled. After Qin Mian and Lei Tie left, a few villagers went to Chen San to inquire about the news. The two passed by the tofu workshop on the way back. In actuality, the workshop was just the opened window in the back room of a house. Tofu, dried tofu, fried tofu, and so on were placed there where the passers-by could see. Qin Mian saw the lady owner of the tofu workshop brought out a plate of freshly made tofu. "I haven't eaten tofu for a long time." The lady owner cheerfully said, "Then buy 2 jin to bring home. It's delicious whether pan-fry, deep fry, or boil." Qin Mian walked over and inquiringly said to Lei Tie, "Buy 2 jin of tofu and 2 jin of dried tofu." Lei Tie took off the pouch hanging on his belt. The lady owner chuckled at Qin Mian with a significant meaning. Qin Mian kept a straight face, utterly calm. The lady owner skillfully cut the tofu and weighed the dried tofu, accurate 2 jin of tofu, 2 jin and 2 liang of dried tofu, count as 2 jin. The total is 7 yuan. Lei Tie took out 7 copper coins and put them on the counter. He picked up the packaged tofu and dried tofu. These actions made the lady owner smiled with goodwill. Be careful on your way. The owner of the tofu workshop came out of the room, rubbing his stomach with a drowsy look. I'm starving. Why haven't you cook? Eat, eat, and eat. You only want to eat all day. The lady owner's slender finger stabbed on his forehead with bitterness. You look at how good LIAN treats his wife, not even letting his wife hold things. And you? Your wife is a delicate and charming woman, but you don't know how to cherish it. The owner avoided her hand. He looked at her thick waist and fat buttocks, and then chuckled, delicate and charming? I don't see it. What did you say? The lady owner put her hands on her hips as her apricot eyes glared. And nothing. The owner suddenly withered and said with a dry laugh, You're delicate and charming. Are you going to cook? Humph. Mian raised his eyebrow and stared at LIAN. LIAN looked steadily forward, acting ignorant. Mian couldn't help laughing. Since he heard the conversation behind him, he didn't believe that LIAN didn't hear it as well. Today, there was no wind at all. The hot sunlight shone down made the wilting leaves on the trees shine with a golden radiance. The ground was scorching hot, appearing as if smoke could come out from it. The cicadas were chirring tirelessly amidst the leaves, one sound was higher than the other. Mian's face was scorched by the sun. He quickened his paces. Let's eat cold dishes and pot-stewed dish for lunch. LIAN walked on his right side, blocking part of the sun. Pot-stewed beef is good. Mian's heart was softened. How could he disagree? He held his man's big palm and pulled him to go home quickly. I'll make you a dish of pot-stewed beef, and then a dish of red-cooked beef. After entering the courtyard gate, Lei Qinyuan informed them that Lei Xiangji and Lei Chuntao were here. Mian remembered that King Yun Academy was on holiday at the end of the month. He ordered Lei Qinyuan to pick a few peaches and send them over. Lei Chuntao and Lei Xiangji stood in the shade of the maple trees as they chatted. Degur, eldest sister-in-law. Mian pushed the door open. The door is not locked, why didn't you go in and sit down? Come in. Feeling the blow of the wind outside is also good. Lei Xiangji and Lei Chuntao followed in. This was a polite remark. There was no one at home, how could they go in at will? LIAN went to the kitchen and put the dishes away. Tie, soak the tofu in water and sprinkle some salt on it, Mian told him. From inside, LIAN asked, how much salt? Just a handful. Aunt Chuan quickly came over and put the washed and cut fruits on the table. Fifth young master, young miss, please enjoy the fruits. Lei Chuntao said thanks. She was in a very melancholy spirit. Meanwhile, there were shadows hidden in Lei Xiangji's eyes. Mian first went to change to straw sandals. After handing them 2 plates of fruit, he sat down at the table, shook his palm leaf fan, and asked, why are you looking so sad? Thank you, eldest sister-in-law. It's too noisy at home. We went out for fresh air. Lei Chuntao took the fruit plate and sighed. She secretly looked at her Degur and eldest sister-in-law. Their clothes were very strange, but it gave her a kind of free and leisurely feeling, making her very envious. What do you mean? Mian casually asked. Lei Chuntao was a person who couldn't hide her words, mother and Sigur. Mother wants Sigur to marry our second cousin from eldest uncle family but Sigur didn't want to, so they quarreled. Second cousin, I really don't understand what mother is thinking. When she said this, her expression had a trace of disgust toward Du Shi. Of course, the eldest uncle she spoke of was not the same person as LIAN's eldest uncle, but Du Shi's eldest brother. Mian truly sympathized with Lei Xiangli. He took a look at the calm Lei Xiangji and lightly said, you don't understand it, but your Uyghur should understand. Lei Chuntao looked at Lei Xiangji in surprise and asked, Uyghur, why is mother doing this? Lei Xiangji was not necessarily willing to talk about Du Shi's fault in front of him and LIAN, so Qin Mian was ready to change the subject. Lei Xiongji sighed and opened his mouth. His voice was calm. It's related to Sigur wanting to separate. Mother worried that Sigur would be at odds with her, so. Lei Chuntao scrunched up her nose. What? For this reason, mother wants Sigur to marry second cousin? Although second cousin is beautiful, she is spoiled and lazy. It's no good for Sigur if he married her. Mother is overthinking things. Sigur is her son, how can he be at odds with her? Lei Xiongji smiled bitterly. He also wanted to know what his mother was thinking. Not only did she force Sigur away, but did she also want to force her own son away? Mother is only in discordance for a while. I'll persuade her. He profoundly said, if we let second cousin marry in, she'll ruin Sigur. Qin Mian did not make any comment. With head lowered, Lei Tie cut fruits for his wife, appearing as if he didn't hear the dialogue between Lei Xiongji and Lei Chuntao. At this time, Lei Chuntao was in the mood to eat the fruits. Lei Xiongji put aside his negative emotions. Eldest sister-in-law, I have another thing to talk about today. Some of my schoolmates want to buy fruits from Leisurely Farmhouse. I told them that the fruits of Leisurely Farmhouse are not for sale, but they insist that I ask you again. So, I'm asking on their behalf. Those students have a good relationship with you, right? However, since the business of Double Xiang House is getting better and better, the daily picked peaches are basically sent to Double Xiang House. Even your eldest brother and I seldom eat it. Qin Mian was a little embarrassed. How about this? I'll spare some for them before the fruits stop yielding in the 8th month. But the price is not low. Everyone knew that the fruits of Leisurely Farmhouse were expensive, but these students still wanted to buy them. It could be seen that these students were rich people who wouldn't care about the price. Lei Xiongji knew that eldest sister-in-law was doing this so he wouldn't lose face. He said with a smile, many thanks, eldest sister-in-law. They said the price is not a problem. Qin Mian softly nodded. Lei Xiongji fished out a scroll from his sleeve pocket. Sigur, eldest sister-in-law. This is a recent painting of mine. If you think it's good, you can hang it at home. Qin Mian took the scroll and unfurled it. It was a painting of a fraction of Leisurely Farmhouse. The hue was bright and colorful and the strokes were vivid. The butterfly on the flower looked lifelike as if it was about to fly out of the painting. Good painting. Qin Mian praised. Why isn't there an autograph? When Wu Lang becomes the #1 scholar, this painting will increase in value. Lei Xiongji's face was slightly red, and his eyes looked confident and contented. I'm very grateful for eldest sister-in-law for thinking so highly of me. I will try my best. Lei Tie fetched the scholar's 4 treasures and Lei Xiongji filled in his autograph. Qin Mian hung the painting in the living room. It's rare for you two to come here, would you like to have lunch here? Qin Mian said. Lei Chuntao repeatedly nodded. Eldest sister-in-law has a good culinary skill, so this little sister won't stand on ceremonies. Lei Xiongji cupped his hands in obeisance to Qin Mian. We're troubling eldest sister-in-law. Qin Mian got up. Tie, you go to the garden to pick some vegetables. Lei Xiongji and Lei Chuntao also stood up. We'll go with Sigur. Sure, you can pick whatever you like to eat. Tie, you pick a pumpkin. Qin Mian found 2 baskets and gave them to Lei Xiongji and Lei Chuntao. In the garden, there were eggplant, cucumber, green pepper, white gourd, potato, loofah, bitter gourd, tomato, pumpkin, lettuce, chives, and whatever one would need. The cucumbers were long and green, and the tomatoes were like red lanterns. All the vegetables were full of vitality. Lei Chuntao thought that a pair of eyes was not enough to see it all. Look, Wugur. The vegetables in eldest sister-in-law's garden are so good that they don't even have hole caused by worms. Lei Xiongji looked around and nodded with approval. I think so, too. Otherwise, the business of Double Xiang House will not be so prosperous. Lei Tie picked a big pumpkin and held it in one hand. I'll go back first. Pick whatever you like to eat. Thank you, Dagur. Lei Chuntao flew over like a yellow butterfly and picked her favorite tomato first. At home, Qin Mian first made dried tofu slices, pot stewed beef, and stir-mixed preserved egg with tofu. When Lei Tie came back with the pumpkin, Qin Mian boiled the pumpkin and prepared to make pumpkin pies. It was not yet noon, so there was plenty of time. Eldest sister-in-law, we are back. Lei Chuntao's spry voice arrived as she came in first. Lei Xiangji carried the 2 baskets, walking at the back. Eldest sister-in-law has already cooked 3 dishes. Lei Chuntao looked at the table and shyly said, we picked too many vegetables. Qin Mian looked at the vegetables in the 2 baskets, it's all right. Since it's something you like, eat more later. Sit down for a while. If you're hungry, eat some fruit. Lei Chuntao was about to help when she saw Lei Tie carrying the 2 baskets and following Qin Mian into the kitchen, so she sat back. After making a pumpkin pie, Qin Mian made red-cooked beef, beef soup with tomato, hot and sour vermicelli, chives omelette, stir-fried pork with cucumber, and sour and spicy shredded potatoes. In addition to the pumpkin pie, there were a total of 10 dishes, comparable to the Lunar New Year's meal. Lei Chuntao and Lei Xiangji helped to bring the dishes to the table. Smells good. Lei Chuntao praised with a smile. Awoo! Dian Bai's voice came from the door. Qin Mian noticed that Lei Xiangli was standing outside the door, looking listless. It was unknown how long he had been standing there. Standing behind him, Lei Qinyuan quickly stepped forward. Please forgive this servant, eldest young master, little young master. This servant had wanted to report. Lei Xiangli hurriedly said, Dagur, eldest sister-in-law. I didn't let him report. I was going to stand for a while and leave. Qin Mian motioned Lei Qinyuan to withdraw and said, Si Lang, why don't you come in? Lei Xiangli rubbed his face and walked in, a tired expression remained on his face. He was embarrassed, Dagur, eldest sister-in-law. I didn't want to stay at home but I didn't know where I could go. I just walked and ended up here. Qin Mian sympathetically patted him on the shoulder, have you eaten yet? Lei Xiangli shook his head as he said, no. Lei Tie went to the kitchen to get a pair of chopsticks and a bowl. Many thanks, Dagur. Lei Xiangli sat down beside Lei Chuntao. Sigur, are you all right? Lei Chuntao asked in a low voice. I'm fine. Lei Xiangli silently sighed. Qin Mian motioned, let's eat. Lei Tie first gave his wife dried tofu slices before he started to eat. Qin Mian gave Lei Tie pot stewed beef. Lei Xiangli, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Chuntao were all stunned for a moment. Dagur and eldest sister-in-law's movements were extremely natural, they obviously had done this regularly. This was a real home where the whole family was kind and loved each other. Unlike in their home, everyone ate fast at mealtime, afraid that they would get to eat less than the others. Sometimes, they even fought for food. There was not a trace of a family's warmth at all. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 112. Like you're taciturn. You 3, help yourselves. If you have to be polite, it's you who won't be full. Qin Mian scooped himself a bowl of preserved eggs and tofu. Lei Xiangli said thanks and ate with his head down. Presumably, he wanted to turn his unhappiness into ravenousness. Eldest sister-in-law's cooking is very delicious. I won't be polite, Lei Xiangji said with a smile. Lei Chuntao was also very fierce. She was embarrassed to get a second helping of rice but Lei Xiangji helped her. After the meal was finished, she rushed to wash the dishes. Qin Mian wanted to say that Aunt Chuan will come to wash the dishes but he could not speak in time, so he gave up. Then, he sat down on the settee with Lei Tie, Lei Xiangli, and Lei Xiangji. The settee was covered with a cooling mat, making it pleasantly cool. The person concerned was here. Mian couldn't help but care. "Si Lang, what's going on?" Lei Xiongli tersely said, "Mother wants me to marry my cousin from eldest uncle's family. I don't like her." There was another sentence he did not say, "If I marry this cousin, she will be a second Zhao Shi." "What are you going to do now?" Mian asked. After talking to father for a while, he didn't seem willing to. "So, this marriage shouldn't work." Lei Xiongli's low mood calmed down a little. "I'm worried that even if mother gives up the idea of asking me to marry this cousin, she'll find for me another wife who is also unreliable." On the topic of marriage, the unmarried maiden Lei Chuntao couldn't join in the conversation. She ate the fruits with her head down. As a man, Lei Xiongji carried himself with ease and confidence. "Sigur doesn't have to be too worried about this. Mother will not deliberately find you a bad wife. No matter who she settles on, it won't be bad if you try to find out in secret." Lei Xiongli looked quite helpless. "I've thought about it. Since eldest aunt is warm-hearted but not as gossipy as other women in the village, when worst comes to worst, I'll shamelessly ask her for help." Marriage was a lifetime thing, he had to be meticulous. Lei Xiongji nodded and said nothing. As the saying went, "Thou shalt not share family scandals." Even if their eldest aunt was a close relative, she was also an outsider. Now, his fourth brother's marriage was reduced to the point of asking for help from an outsider, making Lei Xiongji felt even more powerless toward his mother. After a moment of silence, he made up his mind. "Sigur, don't you and Sangur want to separate? I can't mediate this matter now, but I promise you, after taking the college examination, I will persuade our parents to separate the family." Lei Xiongli suddenly stood up with a surprised expression. "Really? A gentleman's word is trustworthy," Lei Xiongji earnestly said. "I thank you in advance." Lei Xiongli was much more at ease. Lei Xiongji said, "We've been disturbing Degur and eldest sister-in-law for a long time. Shall we go back?" Lei Xiongli and Lei Chuntao both nodded. "Not going to sit for a while more?" Mian asked. "No more." Lei Xiongli was embarrassed as he said, "We've bothered Degur and eldest sister-in-law today. We'll see you some other day." Mian didn't ask them to stay again. "All right, be careful on the way." Coming out from leisurely farmhouse, Lei Xiongli suggested, "Wu Lang, Mei Mei, let's take a detour from the back to home." Lei Xiongji and Lei Chuntao had no objection. The three walked slowly along the perimeter wall to the back of the village. Although the sun was very bright, the three were in a good mood, walking briskly. "Wu Lang, Sangur and I, we really want to separate from the family, but your exam is the most important thing now. Don't get distracted by this and better focus on your study," Lei Xiongli said, as he was worried for his youngest brother. "Don't worry, Sigur. I have been attentive." Lei Xiongji felt a lot of emotion in his heart. "Over the years, my elder brothers have taken good care of me. Sometimes when there are good things at home, even Mei Mei prioritizes me. I feel ashamed. No matter what, I have to do something about this matter." Lei Xiongli patted his youngest brother on the shoulder. "It's good that you have been attentive. If you are affected by my affairs, I won't have peace of mind." "Sigur is right," Lei Chuntao interjected. "Wu Gur, you have a promising future. We'll also get to bask in your light, don't we?" ******. In the middle of the 7th month, after the winery and its wall had been built, the winery opened operation. Uncle Chen was in charge of the winery and other workers were hired from the village. Mian only needed to master the last step of brewing and added the spiritual spring water. When Mian was worried about the name of the winery, he suddenly realized that he should create a brand. A brand was a sign of distinction that could provide the symbol of authenticity and the guarantee of consistency. Moreover, a brand was a kind of standard sign. He hoped to see that one day when people mentioned certain goods, the first thing they thought of was their family's brand. He gave LIAN a firm definition of brand and asked him to help think of a name. After a long time of silence, LIAN blurted out a few words, "Can't think of any." Mian rudely gave him a word, "Idiot." LIAN nodded, "My wife is smart." Mian had nothing to say in reply. Should he say I'm not smart? Anyway, he eventually made up his mind, then, just name it A Glimmer of Paradise. As for the logo of the brand, make it a full moon that has been bitten, symbolizing that using our goods will make life perfect. What do you think? LIAN nodded, "Good." Mian suddenly got upset and went downstairs without saying a word. Out of the hedge gate, when he did not hear the sound of footsteps following, he became completely angry and sped up his paces. Very soon, he passed through the corner gate and went into the new processing yard. There was also a gate to the east of the processing yard for the convenience of the employees to enter and leave. This corner gate was only for the use of people who lived in leisurely farmhouse. Unconsciously, Mian went to the vermicelli workshop. Lei was walking fast, presumably on his way out. Upon catching sight of the little young master's stiff face, he hastily restrained his smile and respectfully saluted, "Greetings, little young master." Mian uttered an N, and wordlessly walked in and went around. The female workers, who were chatting while working, turned silent in a split second when they noticed his expression. They didn't dare to be lazy. They secretly guessed whether Mian had quarreled with LIAN. When Mian noticed their eyes were curious and inquisitive, he was even more irritated. He walked out of the workshop and stood by the pond, feeling depressed. It was not that he didn't know LIAN's taciturn personality. Why would he be so angry? He knew it in his heart. It was not because LIAN didn't help him to think about the brand name, but because LIAN had been sneaking around a few days ago. He didn't know what the man was doing behind his back. He had been patiently waiting for LIAN to take the initiative to tell him, but until today, LIAN had not confessed to him. He wasn't suspicious that LIAN was doing something that would offend him. He just didn't like the feeling of knowing his man was keeping something from him. "Wife." LIAN's voice sounded behind him, but Mian turned a deaf ear and squatted down to watch the small fish swimming in the pond. LIAN walked over and pulled Mian's wrist. "Let go." "What does this pulling and pushing look like?" Mian struggled hard to get free before something was put on his wrist. He looked up and saw a bracelet on his wrist. There were 16 round dark purple beads strung on the bracelet, which looked like wood and gave off a faint elegant scent. He was about to speak when he saw a trace of blood on the back of his own hand. He quickly stood up and grasped LIAN's hand. As expected, he saw a shallow knife mark on the man's left index finger. "How did you get it?" LIAN shook his head, "It's nothing." Mian understood what probably was going on. The reason why LIAN was secretive should be to cut and polish this bracelet. Feeling a bit guilty, he grumbled, "Tell me whatever it is you're doing. You don't need to hide it from me." "I sustained many cuts," LIAN mindlessly said. Mian understood. A man always wanted to keep a good face. "Go back. I'll put medicine for you." His anger completely disappeared and turned to sweetness. Holding his man's hand, he walked a few steps and inadvertently saw that the shoes on his man's 2 feet were different from one another. At once, he burst into laughter, unceasingly. LIAN looked down. With a calm expression, he led Mian to walk, "Go home. Sun's too hot." Mian raised his wrist and looked at the bracelet. "What kind of wood is this? The surface is even engraved with a word. Red sandalwood, inside is the character, fortune." Mian touched the beads. He liked the bracelet very much. "You also make one for yourself some other day." LIAN nodded. Back at home, LIAN went upstairs to change his shoes, and Qin Mian took out the medicine box to apply for medicine on his man's wound. When he imagined LIAN putting on the shoes in a flurry with an expressionless face, the corner of his lips curled up. "Wife, what's funny?" LIAN raised Qin Mian's chin. Qin Mian put his arms around his man's neck as he kept smiling. "What do you think?" "Don't know." LIAN grasped Qin Mian's waist to lift him and placed him on his thighs. He said in a low voice, "Wife, don't resent me being taciturn." Qin Mian's chest pained as though it was being squeezed by someone. He vigorously shook his head. It turned out that this man was not so confident sometimes. He tightly hugged LIAN's waist and looked at his eyes as he seriously said, "No resentment. I like your taciturn. I wasn't really angry just now." LIAN's eyes were filled with tenderness as he clasped the other person's head and gratingly rubbed his lips and tongue against the other person's lips as if worshipping him. The kiss was not fierce but was rather sweet, and yet it attacked Qin Mian's heart inch by inch, making him lose his voice and senses. Then, he wholeheartedly responded. LIAN lifted one of Qin Mian's legs and sat him astride his lap. His arms that wound around the other's waist seemed like they were about to crush it. The sun gradually went to the west. When there was only a touch of golden radiance left to illuminate through the floor-to-ceiling window, the sound in the room finally stopped. Qin Mian's senses gradually returned. He rubbed his forehead and burning his ears. They didn't even take off their clothes. Can't go on thinking that way. He raised his head and threw its thoughts hard. LIAN pressed the other's head on his chest and stroked his back. This person was his wife, his only beloved. He stood up with Qin Mian in his arms. He went to the bookshelf, opened the third drawer and took something out of it. Then, he put it into Qin Mian's hand before returning to the bed and sat down. "What is this?" Qin Mian smelled a familiar scent and knew that it was also made of red sandalwood. He tossed and turned it, and found his name was engraved on the bottom. "Is this a seal? It looks very fine. Then, I'll just use this seal." He opened his pouch and put the seal in its pocket. LIAN kissed his lip and put him on the bed. "Lie down for a while, I'll heat the water." End chapter. Minwei Qinan. Chapter 113. Concern about thieves. The name of the processing yard became Glimmer of Paradise Processing Yard. The vermicelli and wine produced in the processing yard were all marked with a bitten moon logo. The logo was drawn by Qin Mian himself. The words of Glimmer of Paradise were printed on the packaging bags of the vermicelli. Qin Mian also signed a contract with a pottery kiln workshop to produce many wine jars with the logo and brand name. Plum ripened later than honey peaches. Qin Mian made the plums into dried plums and plum jam. Some of them were left in the space for use in autumn and winter, while the rest were sent to Double Xiang House. A lot of customers liked the taste of dried plums and plum jam, sweet and sour. Every time they came to dine in Double Xiang House, they bought more to bring home for their families to eat. In terms of taste, Double Xiang House's food, fruit and jam were better compared to any other places. The customers had already understood this fact. Even Double Xiang House's competitors bought them in large quantities and resold them. In any case, Qin Mian and LIAN made money either way. As the vermicelli workshop increased in production, it became much more than sufficient to provide for Double Xiang House's demand. Qin Mian simply expanded the production again and sold sweet potato and potato vermicelli for 100 yuan per jin. Not only that, like the noodles, he also produced green vermicelli, red vermicelli and purple vermicelli, all of which was sold for 150 yuan per jin. In the first month of export, the vermicelli workshop made a net profit of more than 700 silver taels. The operation of the winery was also on the right track. Regardless of white wine or fruit wine, the Glimmer of Paradise's wine had more ineffable aroma than others' wine, so that the drinker could better taste the pleasure of slight drunkenness. Therefore, 90% of the people who liked to drink the Glimmer of Paradise's wine believed it was more expensive than other wine but was worth the money. As for the situation of Qin Mian and Lei Tie's family, considering that milk was needed to make many cakes, Qin Mian had Lei Tie bought 5 milk cows from the prefecture town. In the middle to late of the 8th month, the honey peach trees stopped fruiting. Qin Mian stopped supplying honey peaches to Double Xiang House. With the last batch of peaches, he sent 20 jin to Deng village, 20 jin to the old house, 2 to each of his servants, and the rest were sold at the price of 100 wen per jin, earning him another fortune. At this time, the grapes and the yellow peaches began to ripen. There were only 2 grapevines, and the grapes were just enough for Qin Mian and Lei Tie to eat for themselves. Yellow peaches were not suitable for storage, but they were very suitable for canning. It tasted very sweet. Even Qin Mian, who strongly disliked anything sweet, liked it very much. He and Lei Tie went to the county town to order 1,000 small earthen jars with a capacity of about 1.5 sheng to make preserved yellow peaches. Of course, they used the same brand name. Note: 1 sheng is about 200 ml. The two hired a group of dexterous women in the village and picked the ripe yellow peaches. After washing the yellow peaches, they peeled, cut it in half, removed the pits and then cut the flesh into pieces. A pot of water was brought to boil and added with sugar. When the sugar dissolved, the flesh of the yellow peaches was poured in. After it started to boil, turned to low heat, and cooked until the flesh was soft and firm. Lastly, the flesh was put in the clean jar and filled until 4/5 parts full before sealing it. After 1,000 preserved yellow peaches were ready, Qin Mian used the excuse of sending them to the ice storehouse in the town, but he actually stored all of it in the magical space. In autumn and winter, when he sold them at the price of 1 silver tael per can, he could make a net profit of 1,000 silver taels. The rest of the yellow peach was mainly supplied to Double Xiang House. The customers of Double Xiang House had noticed that after eating leisurely farmhouse's fruits for an extended time, their physical condition had obviously improved. Especially for the women, they discovered that the spots and lines on their faces were much lighter and their skin was fairer. This statement made Double Xiang House's fruit, juice, jam, and pastry sell like hotcakes. The orchard of leisurely farmhouse not only brought wealth to Qin Mian and Lei Tie, but also provided the villagers with the opportunity to do odd jobs by picking, washing, cutting and transporting fruits. If one worked for a day, one could earn at least 10 wen. For the women who spent 2 days embroidering a pouch before selling it but only earned 1 to 2 wen, this money was like a steal. The lives of the villagers became much better than in previous years. Therefore, they were kinder to Qin Mian and Lei Tie. However, fortune and misfortune correlated with each other. In the meantime, leisurely farmhouse also drew some new kind of attention from certain people. In the middle of the night, Qin Mian was sleeping soundly. After hearing the fierce barking of dogs coming from the processing yard, Qin Mian woke up with a start. In the darkness, he got up and nearly fell out of the bed but was caught by Lei Tie. "Ah Tie, there is a thief. Go back to sleep. I'll go and have a look." Lei Tie quickly put on his clothes. His figure flashed and disappeared after jumping out of the window. Outside, moonlight and starlight mingled while the sounds of frogs and summer insects lingered in the ears but still could not cover up the barking of the dogs. Qin Mian sat on the bed and yawned, not fully awake. He was not very worried. There were 2 servants on duty every night at the processing yard and the 6 dogs in the processing yard were not ordinary, 2 of them were wolfhounds and the other 4 were vicious rural dogs. The 6 dogs were very vicious. Most people dared not get close to them. After Qin Mian fed them spiritual spring water, they became more intelligent and extraordinarily acute. When work finished in the evening, the servants on duty would untie their ropes. Even if the thieves successfully entered, they would be caught by the dogs. Qin Mian put on his clothes, carried a lantern and entered the processing yard from the corner gate. Seeing the torch and swaying shadows in the distance, Qin Mian quickened his pace and called out, "Ah Tie, are you all right?" "I'm fine." 2 thieves were restrained with their hands held on their backs by Lei Qin Li and Lei Qin Jian. There was also a man pressed by a wolfhound, lying on the ground, trembling and scared to move. At the side, there were 5 other dogs with their mouths opened. On the wall not far away, there was a long wooden ladder. On a closer look, it turned out that 2 wooden ladders were connected with ropes. There was another wooden ladder that appeared outside the wall. Qin Mian brought the lantern near the 3 thieves and was stunned, Zhou Erhao, Zhao Sifa and Li Sanlai. Zhou Erhao glanced at the dog's mouth, which was only 3 inches away from him. He turned his head and begged for mercy. His voice trembled, "Qin Xiang, please spare me this time. I was egged on by those 2. Inwardly, he sighed at his misfortune. He didn't expect these dogs to be so alert. Not long after the 3 of them climbed over the wall and came in, they were found out by the dogs. However, they had been prepared and dropped some steamed stuffed buns with sleeping drugs, wanting to incapacitate them. Yet, these dogs did not eat the steamed stuffed buns, they did not even sniff at them. How could he have known that these dogs were so full from eating 3 meals a day and to as much as they wanted? Moreover, they were intelligent. Having simply trained by LIAN, they would not eat food given by strangers. Nonsense, you prick! Li Sanlai broke out into curses. It was your idea to use steam stuffed buns with sleeping drugs. That's right. Zhao Sifa chimed in, it's Zhou Erhao who egged me and Li Sanlai on. The fuck, it was you 2 who egged me on. Zhou Erhao fiercely glared at them, Qin Xiang, believe me. Zhao Sifa has always hated you for hiring others to work, but Li Sanlai is even more detestable because he wants to steal your vermicelli recipe. No, it's him who wants to steal the recipe. Li Sanlai raised his foot to kick Zhou Erhao, but Lei Qingjian exerted force, making him screamed in pain and didn't dare to move again. He was shocked that the boy, who was only a teenager, had such great strength. Shut up! Qin Mian stopped them and said in a cold voice, I thought the thieves were from other villages. I honestly didn't expect it would be you 3. Zhao Sifa, if I remember correctly, your wife is working in the vermicelli workshop, correct? Zhao Sifa's head drooped, not making a sound. Eldest young master, little young master. It'd be better to send them to see an official. Lei Qingjian angrily said, fortunately, our dogs are smart, otherwise they would have succeeded. Qin Mian frowned. Stealing could either be a big or a small matter. In any case, everyone was from the same village. If they send them directly to government officials, their families would certainly hate them for it, which might cause more trouble. But if they did not deal with them, these people would regard him and LIAN as the sort that could be easily bullied. He asked LIAN, "Tie, what should we do?" LIAN indifferently said, "Take them to see the village chief tomorrow morning." No. Zhou Erhao and the other 2 turned pale at the same time. The country folks were simple. They despised those who resorted to trickery. Once they were sent to see the village chief, their reputation would be completely ruined. Qin Xiang, Lei Xiang. LIAN coldly said, "Take them away." After dawn, Qin Mian and LIAN went to the village chief's home with Lei Qinli, Lei Qingjian and Lei Qingzhong escorting Zhou Erhao and his other 2 accomplices. Seeing this situation, the villagers immediately guessed that something had happened last night, and they all followed behind to watch. The wives of Zhou Erhao, Li Sanlai and Zhao Sifa found out that their husbands were missing in the middle of the night yesterday. At this time, they realized that their husbands had been caught by Qin Mian and LIAN. They rushed over to find people and asked what had happened. Zhou Erhao and his 2 accomplices yelled out their grievances. "Qin Xiang, is there any misunderstanding?" Zhou Erhao's wife was both anxious and worried, as well as a little wary. Qin Mian said, "Whether or not it's a misunderstanding, you'll know after seeing the village chief." The procession was getting bigger and bigger. Some villagers speculated whether the 3 people went to the processing yard to steal things last night. They didn't know that it was the right guess. The village chief saw the group and asked everyone to enter the courtyard. The courtyard of the village chief's house was quite large, which was used for discussion meetings when major events happened in the village. Lai's wife. Tell me, what's going on? What's wrong with the three of them? When the village chief saw the village's three good-for-nothing people together, he immediately guessed that the matter was very difficult to handle. Since Mian was the one who married in the eyes of the villagers, Lai was the master of leisurely farmhouse and the processing yard. Thus, Mian signaled Lai to speak. Lai cupped his hands in obeisance and said, "Village chief, thank you for your hospitality. In this matter, Lai Li and Lai Jian are the clearest. You may as well listen to them." After bowing respectfully, Lai Li said, "I'd like to report to the village chief that last night, these three people climbed over our wall to enter the processing yard and tried to steal things. They were caught by Lai Jian and myself. At this time, there are certainly wooden ladders and stuffed buns with sleeping drugs as evidence." The explanation was concise and comprehensive, straight to the point. As soon as the villagers heard this, their disdainful eyes fell on Zhou Erhao, Li Sanlai, and Zhao Sifa. Particularly Zhao Sifa, whose wife was diligent and was even working in the vermicelli workshop in the processing yard. End chapter.